Welcome back to The Short Coat, coming to you from the amazing and intense world of medical school at the University of Iowa, Carver College of Medicine. I'm Dave Etler, and it happened again, you guys. I was raptured. Every time I tell them to take me off their list, I unsubscribe, I stop to quit. Keeps happening. I have things to do, like celebrating Physician Assistants Week.
Woo.
That was okay. All right. We're going to take that again. Like celebrating Physician Assistants Week.
Woo.
Jazz hands.
Yeah. Officially, that's October 6th to the 12th. And as I love to do during PA week, we've got a room full of PA students to help out, including some real homies like PA2 Abby Crow.
Woo. It's me.
PA2 Emily Mazzeo.
Yeah, you killed that.
Is that all right? PA1 David Walker Hoffbauer.
Still weird to hear the legal name, but here we are.
And PA1 Jake Grow.
Howdy, everybody.
What I want to do with today's show is sort of understand what makes a physician assistant student tick. We most often have MD students on the show, but you guys can come on more often if you like, really. But I also kind of want to know, how different from or similar you guys are to MD students and your outlook and things like that, and what y'all are learning about in your roles. So I thought for the first part of the show, we should talk about why you decided on becoming a PA.
All right. So I know for all of us, there's a little bit of a different background of how we got into becoming interested in PA profession. And a lot of it stems from what we wanted to do when we were kids. So I think it'd be fun if we went around, kind of introduced where you're from, and then also what you wanted to do when you were a kid, and then how that transformed into why you wanted to become a PA.
Do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start off. So I'm Emily, like Dave said, and I'm from Massachusetts. And as a kid, just like Dave, as a kid, I always wanted to be, and drumroll please, a mom.
A mom.
Yeah. That was it. I wanted to be my mom specifically, not just a mom.
Okay, that's
my mother.
I don't know how that would work, but okay.
Not my own, a mother of myself, but my
Oh,
mom.
okay, all right.
And I think that kind of translated just into being a caring individual in general, and that is probably what led me towards PA. I had an interest for medicine that sort of manifested later in life towards middle high school, but yeah, started off just wanted to be a mom.
Nice. Moms are cool.
I'll go next. My name is Abby. I'm from Tiffin, Iowa, so I'm pretty local to the university. I remember when I was growing up, I always wanted to be a dentist, and I don't really
no way.
know why. I don't know why that spun up, but I think part of it was I got a lot of reward and praise for doing well with brushing my teeth, and so I'd come in there and they're like, oh my god, like your teeth are so pretty, you do such a good job, and I'd say like, thanks, I really want to be a dentist, and they're like, no way, and they'd be so happy for me, and I kind of like that energy. But I also think it was fun just getting to see the different procedures and stuff they would do, and I think transitioning into PA, I thought I could do dentistry still, but I wanted to do more than just focus on the teeth all the time. Get to see different range of bodies.
I still think it's weird that there's doctors for the body and then there's doctors for the mouth, but okay.
And feet doctors.
I don't get.
Yeah.
And feet doctor. I don't make the rules, but come on, you guys, let's come together.
My name is David. I grew up in Castle Rock, Colorado, just outside of Denver. And I'm pretty sure if I can recall.
Go Sabercats.
Yes. Wow. Crazy.
Deep research. I had my
Crazy.
research team. I forgot to say go Clippers for Abby.
Thank you. Yes. Go boats. It's a clipper ship.
A clipper. Yeah, I think I, for the longest time, honestly wanted to be a chef.
Ooh.
So don't know where the correlation between that lies. I think it was maybe a little bit of ADHD of how I jumped to medicine. But I think probably starting in 2015, I started making that transition when I got to do some cool first aid out in the wild. And I was like, oh, this is actually pretty fun.
I got a follow-up question. Were you forced to do this first aid in the wild? Like somebody had an injury and you got to do some...
Yeah, so it was like a very remote section of Glacier National Park, and some lady fell and had 7 seizures in 5 minutes. And it was me who had first aid training from Boy Scouts, my mom who was an LPN, and that was pretty much it until the park rangers were able to get EMS there, and that was like 45 minutes because of how remote it was. Yeah, I was pretty much forced into this situation by the universe, not by any other, outside factors. And,
Okay.
and that's where we are.
Sweet. Amazing. Jake?
Yeah. So I'm Jake. I'm from.
Go Miami Manatees.
Let's go with Florida State Seminoles.
Florida State Seminoles.
Yeah, we'll do that.
See my research team. They kind of suck.
So, yeah, I wanted to be like a billion different things when I grew up. Like when I was really little, I really wanted to be an entomologist. Like I loved bugs and stuff when I was a kid. I was like a typical little boy. And then naturally in like the little boy progression of like interests, I got really into dinosaurs. So probably for like a couple years after that, I really wanted to be a paleontologist. And then
So classic.
I know. Yeah, I feel like that's like pretty typical. But when I was around like 10 or 11 years old, I really started getting into like military history because both my grandparents or my grandpas served in the U.S. Army in like World War II in Korea.
Wow.
So I just kind of got really interested in what they were doing and really started getting into that and started focusing a lot on like my history studies in like high school and really kind of like took off from there. And so when I got to college, I started studying military history, like, to a serious level, and got to start talking with like vets and working in an archive on military history at Florida State, which is awesome. And I was like, maybe I could be a soldier. Like that might be a lot of fun. Like, let's see. And my mentor, Dr. Peeler, was like, "You're insane. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're throwing away your bachelor's." And I was like, well, maybe it'll make me a better historian. So I wanted to join up, and I wanted to do something that was like infantry adjacent, but not necessarily just infantry, because they don't walk away with a lot of certifications and stuff you can take out into the real world. And Hacksaw Ridge came out the year before I joined the Army, and I was like, man, that movie's sweet. And so I signed on to be a combat medic, and that's when I really got into like doing medicine and stuff like that. And I asked about, or I was kind of like surprised at the dentist thing, because my dad is a dentist, and so I was always around that world. And then my mom was an oncological nurse, so like there was always like medical discussions at the table, but I was always kind of like whatever about it when I was a kid. And then
You were absorbing it. You were.
Oh yeah, well I mean, yeah, we'll say that now, but
Yeah.
at the time, not as much. But yeah, when I was in the Army, I figured out I really liked being in like a combat medic. It's like kind of in between like an EMT and a paramedic. And I worked with a PA on a day-to-day basis. He was like in charge of my group of like 50 or so medics that were in my infantry unit, and he was like a huge inspiration to me, especially during COVID. And he was like, "I think you can do my job, and I think you should try and head this way." So.
Also a classic PA situation,
Yeah.
right? Because the PA profession, as I understand it, came out of the military, like basically people coming back from Vietnam, and it was basically like, hey, we need people who can fill this role in our healthcare system, and so the PA profession was born. In fact, I like to say, I've said this on the show before, my father was among the first PAs in the country.
Awesome.
He was the first class out of Dartmouth, and he was the first PA in Massachusetts.
How
That's
exciting.
really cool.
So I like me some PAs. You know what I'm saying?
How exciting.
Were you guys always aware of the PA profession, or when did you become aware of the PA profession? I guess is what I wanted to ask.
I think that's a good question. So when I was thinking of applying to schools for undergrad, I started to consider, I knew I wanted to go into medicine, and of course, my first thought was MD.
Sure.
It's the natural progression.
Yeah, I feel like that's why I asked, because I feel like most people know MD, they know nurse.
Yeah,
PAs,
not so
a little
much.
less so.
So, as one does, doing my research, and I came across a lot of schools that had PA programs. And so I was kind of looking into what that path looks like from undergrad to graduate school. And the undergrad that I ended up going to specifically had a PA program and a PA club. So I had the idea going into college that this might be something I wanted to pursue, but didn't really solidify that choice until my freshman year of college, spending a lot of time with those club members and then thereby the PA students at that school. And they convinced me. I feel like we aligned a lot in our philosophies in terms of how we wanted to take care of people in the future. And that's why I was drawn to PA.
I also was kind of like stuck gung-ho MD at first, all the way up until I graduated my undergrad in 2022, actually. Then I took the MCAT 17 days later, got my scores back a month after that, bombed it. 11th percentile score.
Hey.
Yeah, it was real good, honestly. I should get an award for that, I feel like. So as I was studying for my second one and then working in the field, all of the doctors who I was working with were like, don't do it. Not like go PA. And I was like,
it was a hard time for healthcare 2022.
right, exactly. So I don't know how much of that was actually like
I
driven.
don't know if it's gotten any better really, but it's
So then they were like, go PA, go PA, go PA. And I was like, I know a little bit about PAs, but I was like, I want to be a doctor. I want to be the first doctor in my family. Sister beat me to that by then. So I was like, whatever.
bitch.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Wait, are we allowed to swear?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, it's over.
Filters off.
I'm gonna warm up my beeping fingers.
So yeah, I kind of started getting into research about that, and what really drew me ultimately away from MD to PA was the flexibility in the career and being able to jump from one specialty to another. Because I'm just a naturally like curious guy. I don't like to sit still for too long, kind of thing.
Not the ADHD
So
though.
right, exactly. So I was like, okay, that could be like a really cool benefit of that career, because like I could end up working 2 different clinics throughout the week if the schedule is right. And I was like, that's really special. So that's what tipped the scale for me ultimately. And there was not an entrance exam that I had to take for PA school. So I knew my 11th percentile score wouldn't matter in the long run, which is A+, thumbs up. Yeah.
I had a similar experience to that sentiment coming from doctors as well. Quite young, I did a medical internship in India, and I was mostly paired with MDs because that's really their structure. And a lot of them were like, yeah, you make the decision between your family or your career. And I was like, I don't want to make that decision. So that was an early push, I think, for me.
Those were Indian physicians?
Yep, in Vadodara. I was in India.
Well, it's good to know that the world around, all over the world, people are like, yeah, it's kind of a problem.
It's a huge commitment, yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't have any healthcare members in my family whatsoever. I'm the oldest of 3 siblings, and actually now all of my siblings we're all going into healthcare, which I think is pretty funny. But so when I was going through high school, I was just trying to try all the classes, see what I liked. I was good at a lot of stuff. I took a patient care class to get my CNA certification, and I remember we had to do a project where it was about like, future career paths as healthcare workers, and I knew I wanted to do something kind of advanced, have a little more authority, but I also knew what doctors kind of did. So I'm like, well, I'm going to try to learn about PAs and nurse practitioners, because those both seemed like advanced practice providers, but I didn't know too much about it. And during that process, I was learning like, okay, they are kind of similar in scope and level of autonomy, a little less school compared to MDs, but a bit more flexibility in the paths you can take. And for me, that was a really important thing, because right around that time, I don't mean to get emotional here if I do. I don't know why, because I don't feel too weird about it. But my dad had lost his job like out of nowhere, and my parents are in business, and they were like, well, we don't really know what's happening, but like as I was in high school looking for my future careers, my mom's like, get something that has job security, like where you can grow, because they just felt so stuck in where they were in business. So I was like, okay, I like that in healthcare you can climb up a ladder. And so my original plan was to go and get a degree in nursing so that I could decide later on if I want to go to NP or PA, because I've heard you can still go back and do that. And I applied to Iowa because I loved it here for healthcare especially. I did not get into Iowa's College of Nursing, and that really threw me off. I was like, oh, I feel like I'm doing everything right, good grades, a lot of volunteering, leadership, whatever. My advisors were really helpful here, and they're like, you see this future path for yourself. I kind of liked PA a little more for the flexibility, because nurse practitioners have to pick a patient subspecialty and an area of practice generally to focus on. You can go back to school for more of those certifications. But I thought, well, PA seems like my primary end goal. And they're like, what's stopping you from shooting there for the first place? So after my first year in college, I was like, yeah, classes are still going really well. I'm still really involved. I think I'm just going to make a go for PA. And so I'm really happy that that's how I decided to go.
Did you guys all apply to, I mean, you said you applied to nursing, but then you applied to PA. And did you guys apply to multiple programs or?
Yeah, definitely multiple programs for PA, but I myself was never interested in nursing or MD. Like when I was like getting into like the professional side of like the medical field, I knew I wanted to be a PA just from all my interactions that I'd had with the PAs in the military. They were the ones who were like truly, like the frontline providers. Like they were the people that we as medics interacted with the most, and it was just insane because we would have so many questions on like different illnesses, injuries, all kinds of stuff, like what kind of medication should we give in this situation, like how do we do a chest tube, like can you help me with this, can you help me with that? And they always had the answers. Like my PA was what got us through COVID. Like he was really the one who kind of kept us all like focused and trained. He trained us how to use ventilators, all kinds of other stuff back when it was still like we didn't know how deep the COVID rabbit hole was going to go. And through like talking with him and working with him, I was just like, no, I want your job. And he was just like, I think you could do it. And he was like, just definitely don't do it in the military. And I asked him, why? And the military's PA program is condensed into 18 months. Where like ours is 27, so we're a little bit longer than usual. They tend to be on average about 24 months. And it was really rocky for him. He said that it was a really, really tough time, especially between him and his wife, just because we're already busy enough as it is in this 27-month program. I couldn't imagine condensing that by another, like 9 months. So he was just like, if you can do it on the outside, use the GI Bill, man. And I was like, all right. And so took that advice and here we are. So
cool.
How many schools did each of you apply to, if you feel like answering?
Yeah.
I did 10.
Same. I did 10.
Med schools or PA?
Let's hear both.
Overall, I think the number would be 32.
Oh my gosh.
It was 17 MD because I took the MCAT. I was like, might as well at least try.
Yeah.
Maybe someone will find pity in me. They did not. All 17 schools said no.
So 15 PA?
15 PA because I was told with the PAs that I had started working with, like 15 is kind of the benchmark that you want to hit when you're applying to PA schools, because there's studies that show once you're above 15 schools, your odds of getting in don't go any higher. So they're like, hit 15. And Iowa was actually one of my fillers. I had found 12 schools that I was like, yes, good. And I was like, well, I need some other 3. And I was like scrolling back through the application and I was like, Iowa has some good like academics. Like I've heard
Really
great
good.
things.
Best school in the nation. You're like,
I didn't even
I guess
know.
they're all right.
No, I didn't even know until I got offered an interview. That at that time we were number 2. And I was like, oh, guess it's a good thing I had heard good things about undergrad for Iowa and decided to put that on my application because, yeah, number 2. I was like, oh,
I feel
okay.
silly now saying I applied to 2 schools. 2
Really?
PA schools. And that was
Hey, it worked.
it
You were
did.
Yeah.
doing it
Mark.
early too.
I did plan on taking, so I graduated from undergrad a year early, and I planned on that gap year plus maybe another. And then my uncle works at the University of Iowa, and he was like, great program, apply this year. If you don't get in, do it again next year. So I applied to Iowa and the place I went to for undergrad and called it a day and was like, maybe it'll happen. And it worked out, but
Awesome. When you got accepted, tell me about how that felt.
I got the call from Tom.
Tom O'Shea is
Tom
is
O'Shea,
the
excuse me.
coordinator, or, I'm not sure,
Director of Student
Director of
Services.
Student Services for our PA program.
Yeah,
the heart and soul.
The big
Yeah.
smiley face you see.
for sure. And he was the one who was
When I
you know,
when I
yeah.
picture Tom, I picture like ah.
Exactly.
And running
Amazing.
yeah,
pretty much. Yeah, he's the one who like runs the whole shebang with like like getting people in for interviews, accepting, all that kind of stuff. So I came here on a Thursday night, had our like tour and introduction thing Friday. Saturday we had the interviews, which I felt like I had fun during our interviews. I was like, this is actually pretty interesting.
Such a great
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, it was like
So good.
I remember like when I was like about to start the first one, I was kind of like, oh God, like I'm shitting bricks and stuff like that. And then I actually went in there and I was like, no, these are fun questions, talking to fun people, like people who actually like seem to care about everything, care about us. And so I left feeling pretty good and I was like, whatever happens, happens. I applied here on a whim. So I was just, I consider this to be like practice where I was like, hey, I'm getting practice at an interview. This is great. So like when I work as an MA for another year and apply again next year, like it'll go fine. but then I visited my buddy in Des Moines. One of my best friends from basic training lives in Des Moines with his wife and his daughter. And I hadn't seen him in like 4 or 5 years. So I was like, I got to go check this guy out, see how he's doing, make sure he's okay. And we had a great time. I got to meet his family. It was awesome. And I was at the airport on Monday, and I was on my plane from Cedar Rapids to Minnesota or to St. Paul. And I got a call from an Iowa number, and I saw Tom leave a message, and I was just like, oh God, they said that they would only call immediately for one thing. So I landed, I left Tom a message, and I was just like, I need to eat something because I'm about to freak out. And I got Chick-fil-A at the airport, and Tom called me while I was getting it, and he was like, yeah, we're going to like offer you like a spot in like the PA program. And I was like, that sounds great, Tom. I'm sorry, bud. I need to grab my Chick-fil-A. Like, I'm getting yelled at by people at the airport in Minneapolis. And like, cause there was a dude who was getting like actually like a little heated. He was
You
just
want to
like,
get in the way of people in their Chick-fil-A.
yeah, it was like serious. And
Not a sponsor, call us. Thank you.
yeah, and then Tom was like, no, it's okay. You know, nutrition's important. And I was just like, so I was like, thanks for understanding, sir. Yeah, cool. And I was like, I'm excited to be a Hawkeye. Anyways, I'll be in touch. Thank you, bye. And like just hung up, and I called like everybody I knew, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I got called while I was at work. So I had just started like an 8-hour shift. I was about an hour in, and I was like helping watch a patient kind of one-on-one, and then my phone was buzzing. I'm like, whatever. And I had a free second. I checked also 319 number voicemail from Tom. I'm like, hold on. I had to get somebody to cover me so I could leave the room. And I like made that call, and I'm just crying. I'm so excited. I'm so happy. I go back in the room, and I have to be there at least for another 3 hours. And I went out for a really nice sushi dinner.
Nice.
So happy. Just an amazing day.
Treat yourself.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I was at work too. It was the Monday after my weekend interview, and I wasn't expecting, maybe Tuesday, wasn't expecting anything. Tom said he was going on vacation, and that we might not hear back for a little while, whatever. He called me from the beach. So major props to Tom. And I ran back. I worked at a derm clinic and went into the biopsy room. I'm on the phone. Again, like tears. All of my coworkers knew what was going on. So it was very exciting. But it was actually, I had my acceptance from the other school I applied to on the same shift. So my coworkers had already had like a little celebration for me for that one. So
And they're like, oh, all right.
Okay.
All right.
We've celebrated
Two's
you.
enough.
Jeez.
100% acceptance at your school
Well,
too is crazy.
2 is low, but 2 is a low number. We'll take it.
Yeah, it's just like a huge weight off of everyone's shoulders. I, at this point, had known that it was a number 2 program because they made sure to stick that into every corner of the interview process that they could, especially during like the orientation day. So my mindset about it was my first interview. I had others lined up, but I was like, if I get in, I'd be stupid to pass up a spot in the number 2 program. So as soon as I got that call from Tom, also while doing a derm biopsy at work, so correlating themes.
Definitely a big just weight off the shoulders is such
Yeah.
a good point. Especially getting into Iowa, knowing like that's my top program, like both in quality of education and for in-state cost. It's amazing. It is half as
Oh my
expensive
God.
as the next cheapest school that I applied to. So it's just best education I could get in the country and really cheap. So
Yeah, you're
Even
really
out
of
innovator.
state
We don't know
here.
this.
out of state
Yeah.
is really nice too.
Out of
but
state here is cheaper than in state in Colorado, where
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
from. It's
Same with New York.
very
It's
affordable.
crazy.
I would just like to thank every taxpayer in the country for funding my PA escapade. Thank you for your service as a taxpayer, because I get, and not only is it like the in-state rate, but also, VA pays for it all. And so it's awesome. So now I feel like more pressure to just be like, okay, don't screw this up. Like,
It's fair.
like, so it's been going well so far.
Yeah, there's a lot of faith in Iowa that we have.
Well, Shortcoats, if you have something you want to say about today's show, about something you want to hear about someday, question you have, go to theshortcoat.com/tell us and send us a message. Otherwise, that's our show. Until next time, I'm Dave Etler, saying don't let the bastards get you down. Talk to you soon. Say bye, everybody.
Bye.